So we had talked about strategy 1 yesterday. Today we'll be talking about strategy 2 and strategy 3. So what is strategy 2? Now, just a recap, we are talking about how to turn work and free time into spaces of growth. That is going with the flow and the power of the flow. So strategy 1 was choosing a difficult task, but not too difficult. Strategy 2 is about have a clear, concrete objective. Video games played in moderation, board games, and sports are great ways to achieve flow because the objective tends to be very clear. Beat your rival or your own record while following a set of explicitly defined rules. Unfortunately, the objective isn't quite as clear in most situations. According to a study by Boston Consultancy Group, when asked about their bosses, the number one complaint of employees at multinational corporation is that they don't communicate the team's mission clearly. And that as a result, the employees don't know what their objectives are. What often happens, especially in big companies, is that executives get lost in the details of obsessive planning, creating strategies to hide the fact that they don't have a clear objective. It's like heading out to sea with a map, but no destination. It is much more important to have a compass pointing to the concrete objective than to have a map. Joy Itio, director of MIT Media Lab, encourages us to use the principle of compass over maps as a tool to navigate our world of uncertainty. In the book Whiplash, How to Survive Our Faster Future, he and Jeff Ho write, in an increasingly unpredictable world moving ever more quickly, a detailed map may lead you deep into the woods at an unnecessary high cost. A good compass, though, will always take you where you need to go. It doesn't mean that you should start your journey without any idea where you're going. What it does mean is understanding that while the path to your goal may not be straight, you'll finish faster and more efficiently than you would have if you had the truths along a pre-planned route. In business, the creative professions and education alike, it's important to reflect on what we hope to achieve before starting to work, study, or make something. We should ask ourselves questions such as, what is my objective for today's session in the studio? How many words am I going to write today for the article coming out next month? What is my team's mission? How fast will I set the metronome tomorrow in order to play that sonata at an allegro tempo by the end of the week? Having a clear objective is important in achieving flow, but we also have to know how to leave it behind when we get down to business. Once the journey has begun, we should keep this objective in mind without obsessing over it. When Olympic athletes come for a gold medal, they can't stop to think how pretty the medal is. They have to be present in the moment. They have to flow. If they lose focus for a second, thinking how proud they'll be to show the medal to their parents, they'll almost certainly commit an error at a critical moment and will not win the competition. One common example of this is writer's block. Imagine that a writer has to finish a novel in 3 months. The objective is clear. The problem is that the writer can't stop obsessing over it. Every day, she wakes up thinking, I have to write that novel. And every day, she sets about reading the newspaper and cleaning the house. Every evening, she feels frustrated and promises she'll get to work the next day. Days, weeks, and months pass, and the writer still hasn't gotten anything down on the page, when all it would have taken was to sit down and get that first word out, then the second, to flow with the project, expressing her ikigai. As soon as you take these first small steps, your anxiety will disappear and you will achieve a pleasant flow in the activity you're doing. Getting back to Albert Einstein, a happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell on the future. I would repeat the line again. A happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell on the future. So there is a table at the end which says, whether if it's a vague objective, it leads to confusion, time and energy wasted on meaningless tasks, and it creates a mental block. But whereas it's a clearly defined objective and a focus on process, so there is flow in that. And when it's an obsessive desire to achieve a goal while ignoring the process, fixation on the objective rather than getting down to business, further creating a mental block. So it's very clear in this strategy, in order to get with the flow, you need both the map as well as the compass. So your end destination is what you want to achieve should be absolutely clear. This is my main objective and this is what I want to achieve. And in order to achieve that, you should always be checking whether you are in that right direction or not. Like they shared their example. Now, if we're talking about a Olympic athlete, now if he is concentrated on winning that gold, he can just not win that gold by only concentrating on the gold. He has to be in the moment, focused, having that objective in your mind. What is it that you want to achieve at the end? Plus being very, very clear, which direction am I going? Generally, I don't know, but yeah, I have found a lot of people, majority, have this mentality, when it comes to doing a particular thing. And for that, if we have time, going back to our school days, if there is a project जिसकी deadline है 2 महीने, so 1 महीने 15 दिन तो वो काम ही नहीं होगा कि 2 महीने बाद है, वो हम लास्ट मोमेंट पे उसको लगाएंगे, टेंशन भी लेंगे, स्ट्रेस भी लेंगे, हर एक चीज होगी. But whereas you were given 2 months to do it, and suppose that required 30 hours. So just break bigger tasks into small tasks and do it on a daily basis. That will get you closer to whatever is it that you want to desire in that time frame, rather than not touching it for 1.5 months and then last 15 days stressing it out, working late nights, working extra hours. It is better to space out. अगर आपके पास time है तो every day का जो consistent effort होता है ना. See, remember when we were talking about in the book Power. So it takes 21 days for a neurological pathway to be formed. It takes 40 days for a habit to be formed, and it takes 90 days to make a change in your DNA. So if you can do a particular thing for 21 days, the first thing is going to happen, the neurological pathway, the brain wiring is going to change. And if you continue to do it for 40 days, that's a habit which is being formed. And then if you further go on and do it for 90 days, you've changed that 40 days habit into a particular strand of that DNA which has that decoding of that particular activity we're talking about. So slowly, small directional बड़े ऑब्जेक्टिव को छोटे छोटे टास्क में अगर हम डिवाइड करके चले, it's much more easier. So one, there is a sense of achievement because whatever task you take, if you divide it on a daily basis, so you will get closer कि आज मैंने ये कर लिया, आज मैंने ये कर लिया. And once you start completing them, your self confidence is going to increase because you are achieving that task. Plus the direction जिस पे हमारा focus होना चाहिए with the objective in mind will also be there, because you'll see if it's 100 pages to be written, day by day you're doing 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, depending on your daily commitment towards your objective. So you're slowly getting towards it. You will get there in time. You will be able to see whether your direction is in the right way or not. आप कहीं waver तो नहीं कर रहे हो. And in case just if you are also wavering from your objective and the direction is not right, you have sufficient time to check yourself and get back on track. See, because at the end, जो objective, जो भी हमारा objective होगा for our ikigai, that is a bigger picture. So macro and micro both need to be managed. We can't say कि हमें macro में मुझे ये चाहिए, ठीक है, agreed, that's a good way of working with it. But yeah, how, in the sense, are we planning to achieve that objective and what is the micro behind it? Like for example, one of my dream is to be a life coach. Okay, so I have given myself say 10 years to be a life coach. अब मैं या तो रोज कुछ ना कुछ करूं, go towards it, start small, so break it down to, let's start with book reading coaching, then having your own 1 or 2 hour sessions, then having your own 21-day sessions, and slowly having books. So that is the whole thing which is broken, that 10-year objective of mine, into monthly or quarterly targets, so that I know whether I'm able to get on there. So उस quarterly को मैंने महीने में बांधा होता है. I don't do daily, I do monthly. Like for example, if I check my planner, I'll have a monthly task. This month, these courses have to be done. These books have to be done. This study material has to be prepared. So so एक 10 साल के टारगेट को हर साल में बांधो, उस 1 साल के टारगेट को क्वार्टर में करो और उसको महीने में करो. And yes, if you can get it to a day, nothing better than that. So that you know which direction you are. So generally I end up doing 80% or 70%. 100% किसी महीने में हो भी जाता है. If I set myself कि मुझे 4 books पढ़नी है, तो किसी महीने में 4 पढ़ लेता हूँ. But yeah, a lot of times I have only done 3 or 2.5, 3 भी नहीं complete हुई. So but I know that direction is there. So whatever you have to do, at least your month, your tasks for the month, or your objectives for your month leading to your actual objective of whatever is there on your dream list should be there. Because see, it's not going to come that at the end of 10 years done. नहीं, slowly small objectives cross होंगे तो वो बड़ी पिक्चर सामने आती है.
Arjun, 10 years you're saying too long. For you, 3 years.
Could be, I don't know.
Like
2030 is my target. So there's a PhD involved in it, ना, उसी को 6 साल लग जाएंगे.
PhD किसमें?
देखूंगा, अभी वो इस 2023 में डिसाइड होगा. So my whole question is not on me. My thing is जो आपने करना है अगले 10 साल में, that vision, that clarity should be there कि भैया मेरे को क्या चाहिए. बड़ा सोचने में कोई टैक्स थोड़ा है. कौन सा कल इनकम टैक्स ने आ जाना है, तूने ज्यादा बड़ा सोचा तेरे को ज्यादा टैक्स मिलेगा. No.
I think somebody gave me you know, in the same area. Somebody gave me an analogy to compound interest, and they said कि जैसे आप को आप कहते हो मैंने हर मंथ या हर वीक इतनी सिप करनी है, like systematic investment plan, तो उसमें the compounding that happens is much more than कि अगर आप बोलते हो कि हाँ मैंने इतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट साल में करनी है और मैं एक lump sum एक झटके में करूंगा. Similar to, you know, reading, like you said, a book कि यार मैंने हर हफ्ते एक चैप्टर करना है. Instead of that, if you like we do, you know, so many chapters every day, so that compounding happens, and then the learning you're able to get from that thing, the same compounding interest, the compounding formula happens in that activity.
Yeah, because see, the whole issue, if we're talking about this book, it's about think what you love and think that you're good at. उसको जब आप फ्लो में डेली लेके आओगे ना, then you will be in such a different zone, I would say. उसका मजा ही अलग है. Like for example, people who are like you love your tennis. There are people who love their gym. तो वो बॉडी या गेम या मसल एक दिन में तो नहीं बनता ना. It's a consistent effort, day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year. ये तो नहीं आज मैं उठा कल मेरी बॉडी बना दे चल. It's not possible. So it's a consistent effort. And consistent effort में जब when you are in that flow, चाहे वो आप एक्टिविटी घंटा या 2 घंटे ही कर रहे हो दिन में, but in that flow you are in the now and you're enjoying it to your fullest. That zone is altogether a different zone. Because you are fully present in the now and enjoying yourself, which is actually giving you such a big boost and a charge to your body, mind, and soul, is amazing. Strategy number 3. Concentrate on a single task. This is perhaps one of the greatest obstacles we face today. With so much technology and so many distractions, we are listening to a video on YouTube while writing an email. When suddenly a chat pops up and we answer it, then our smartphone vibrates in our pocket. Just as soon as we respond to that message, we are back at our computer logging on to the Facebook. Pretty soon, 30 minutes have passed and we've forgotten what that email we were writing was supposed to be about. This also happens sometimes when we put a movie with dinner and don't realize how delicious the salmon was until we are taking the last bite. We often think that combining tasks will save us time, but scientific evidence shows that it has the opposite effect. Even those who claim to be good at multitasking are not very productive. In fact, they are some of the least productive people. Our brains can take in millions of bits of information, but can only process a few dozen per second. When we are saying multitasking, what we are really doing is switching back and forth between tasks very quickly. Unfortunately, we are not computers, adapt to parallel processing. We end up spending all our energy alternating between tasks instead on doing one of them well. Concentrating on one thing at a time may be the single most important factor in achieving flow. According to Csikszentmihalyi, in order to focus on a task we need, number one, we need to be in a distraction-free environment. Number two, to have control over what we are doing at every moment. Technology is great if you are in control of it. It's not so great if it takes control of us. For example, if you have to write a research paper, you might sit down at your computer and use Google to look up the information you need. However, if you are not very disciplined, you might end up surfing the web instead of writing that paper. In that case, Google and the internet will have taken over, pulling you out of your state of flow. You know, when we are talking about concentrating on a single task, one basic trait which I find, and especially the kids, now this is for all the parents, please stop or try or make a conscious effort. I am also making a conscious effort with my children कि जब वो खाना खा रहे हैं, their concentration should only be on the food. Just because the cartoon is playing on the iPad or on the TV, their concentration is there, and it makes our task as parents or feeders to give them food easy and convenient. We are resorting to that. See, आपकी बॉडी को एनर्जी कहां से मिल रही है? It's only that the food which goes in gets digested, gets converted, and gives your body the required energy. So अगर जो सांस में प्राणा है उसको एक एनर्जी या मसल स्ट्रॉन्ग कर रहा है, that is the energy from the food. So it is one of the most vital inputs to your body and through your sense of taste or digestion. So जब उस इनपुट में आपने बैकग्राउंड में एक कार्टून का जो भी whatever is it, I am not into details of cartoons, anything that is playing, for that matter, a lot of adults, I remember all my childhood, there used to be a lobby and a TV there, and all meals were with the TV. We've done it. In my childhood, I also done it. एक टीवी होता था, सारी फैमिली उसके पास बैठती थी, एंड खाना भी खा रहे हैं और टीवी पे कोई चैनल आ रहा है या दूरदर्शन आ रहा है, whatever is the channel. So we've done that. It's not that we've not done that. But yes, now if we are aware of this knowledge that your input energy is important, so please make sure kids and you as well, when you are eating food, 5 से 10 मिनट हर एक चीज को साइड करो, फोन को साइलेंट करो या फोन को ऑफ कर दो 10 मिनट. कोई दुनिया नहीं बदलने वाली 10 मिनट में. 10 to 15 मिनट्स लगते हैं मील खत्म करने में. उसको एंजॉय करो. Bless the food. Enjoy the taste. Just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 meals or 3 meals, whatever, depending on whatever your diet is. Just concentrate on your food and see the difference. And especially kids, मैं बता रहा हूँ, because this is a common thing. And why it is common? Because the effort is reduced. अगर टीवी नहीं होगा तो उसकी अवेयरनेस या उसकी कंसंट्रेशन इधर उधर भागेगी, वो भागेगा, इधर जाएगा उधर जाएगा, तो हमें साथ में जाना पड़ेगा. अग्रीड. तो हम क्या करते हैं, टीवी लगा दे, कंसंट्रेशन उधर आ गई, मुंह खोलो चलो, मुंह खोलो चलो. इज वर्किंग लाइक अ रॉबर्ट. इज ही एंजॉयिंग हिज मील? नो. 10 मिनट के लिए कुछ नहीं होना ना. 10 मिनट तो हम दे सकते हैं. It's very important because this is where the energy of the body is being driven from, for kids as well as for us. So that 10 minutes of your lunch, breakfast or dinner, just make sure there is no TV. Concentrate on your food. First, bless your food. Thank you, God, for the food on my plate. Bless it. Thank God. And then enjoy the meal. 5 मिनट 10 मिनट जो है, उसके बाद देख लो यार. Who's stopping you? टीवी तो कहीं भागा नहीं जा रहा. आजकल तो हर जगह recordings available hai. So if it's a live thing and you're missing out, you can always record. So concentrate, especially meals, energy to the body is through the meal. So please concentrate on one thing, particularly when I'm talking about meal. Several studies conducted at Stanford University by Clifford IVR Nas describe our generation as suffering from an epidemic of multitasking. One such study analyzed the behavior of hundreds of students, dividing them into groups based on the number of things they tended to do at once. The students who were the most addicted to multitasking typically alternated among more than 4 tasks. For example, taking notes while reading a textbook, listening to a podcast, answering messages on their smartphones, and sometimes checking their Twitter timeline. Each group of students was shown a screen with several red and several blue arrows. The objective of the exercise was to count the red arrows. At first, all the students answered correctly right away, without much trouble. As the number of blue arrows increased, the number of red arrows stayed the same, only their position changed. However, the student accustomed to multitasking had serious trouble counting the red arrows in the time allotted, or as quickly as the students who did not habitually multitask, for one very simple reason. They got distracted by the blue arrows. Their brains were trained to pay attention to every stimulus, regardless of its importance, while the brains of other students were trained to focus on a single task, in this case, counting the red arrows and ignoring the blue ones. Other studies indicate that working on several things at once lowers your productivity by at least 60% and our IQ by more than 10 points. One study by the Swedish Council of Working Life and Social Research found that a sample group of more than 400 young adults between the ages of 20 and 24 who were addicted to their smartphones got less sleep, felt less connected to their community at school, and were more likely to show signs of depression. So there is a table describing the difference between concentrating on a single task and multitasking. So when you're concentrating on a single task, it makes achieve flow more likely, whereas multitasking makes achieving flow impossible. Concentrating on a single task increases productivity, whereas multitasking decreases productivity by 60%, though it doesn't seem to. Lagta hai. Concentrating on a single task increases our power of retention, whereas multitasking makes it harder to remember things. Concentrating on a single task makes us less likely to make mistakes, whereas multitasking makes us more likely to make mistakes. Concentrating on a single task helps us feel calm and in control of the task at hand, whereas multitasking makes us feel stressed by the sensation that we are losing control, that our tasks are controlling us. Concentrating on a single task causes us to become more considerate as we pay full attention to those around us, whereas multitasking causes us to hurt those around us through our addiction to stimuli, always checking our phones, always on social media. Concentrating on a single task increases creativity, whereas multitasking reduces creativity. There's a very nice book by Gary Keller on this. It's called The One Thing. Now, the crux of this book, One Thing, is आपका जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टास्क है ना डे का, उसका टाइम फिक्स कर दो कि ये तो आज करना ही करना है, और उसका जितना आपको टाइम चाहिए वो फिक्स कर दो. और उस टाइम पे, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू से दैट यू हैव टू मेक द एनुअल फोरकास्ट or you have to make the monthly budget, or you have to do some presentation, or you have to make some project, whatever. और उसके लिए आज मैंने 2 घंटे इस स्लॉट में डिसाइड किए. अब उस टाइम पे all your distractions have to be off. If you need a computer, then you will take a computer. Otherwise, if you don't need a computer, you should not even take that computer. Phone to chhodi do. Phone does not have to be with you. You have to be in a room where there is a do not disturb label outside so that nobody comes in. Your phone is not with you. And you have to be in a room where there are not much. It should be more of plain walls, because eyes are also biggest distractors. So जब हम कुछ देखते हैं कमरे में ये है वो है, तो हमारी अवेयरनेस या हमारा अटेंशन इधर उधर जा रहा होता है. So choose that task, be in a room which just has a table, chair and 4 walls, no painting, no nothing, and all elements of distraction outside, and then work, so that you are focused and you achieve that flow for that one thing. और वो one thing पे ही हमें काम करना है. So it's a beautiful book. Who are those who want to look for personal productivity? One Thing by Gary Keller is one of the most highly recommended books for that. What can we do to avoid falling victim to this flow impending epidemic? How can we train our brains to focus on a single task? Here are a few ideas for creating space and time free of distractions to increase our chances of reaching a state of flow and thereby getting in touch with our Ikigai. Don't look at any kind of screen for the first hour you are awake and the last hour before you go to sleep. Turn off your phone before you achieve flow. There is nothing more important than the task you have chosen to do during this time. If this seems too extreme, enable the do not disturb function so only the people closest to you can contact you in case of emergency. Designate one day of the week, perhaps a Saturday or a Sunday, a day of technological fasting, making exceptions for e-readers without Wi-Fi or MP3 players. Go to a cafe that doesn't have Wi-Fi. Read and respond to email once or twice per day. Define those times clearly and stick to them. Try the Pomodoro technique. Get yourself a kitchen timer. Some are made to look like a Pomodoro or a tomato, and commit to working on a single task as long as it's running. The Pomodoro technique recommends 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes of rest for each cycle. But you can also do the 50 minutes of work and 10 minutes of rest. Find the pace that's best for you. The most important thing is to be disciplined in completing each cycle. Start your work session with a ritual you enjoy and end it with a reward. Train your mind to return to the present when you find yourself getting distracted. Practice mindfulness or another form of meditation. Go for a walk or a swim, whatever will help you get centered again. Work in a space where you will not be distracted. If you can do this at home, go to a library or cafe, or if your task involves playing the saxophone or music studio, if you find that your surroundings continue to distract you, keep looking until you find the right place. Divide each activity into groups of related tasks and assign each group its own place and time. For example, if you're writing a magazine article, you can do research and take notes at home in the morning, write in the library in the afternoon, and edit on the couch at night. Bundle routine tasks such as sending out invoices, making phone calls, and so on, and do them all at once. So difference between advantages of flow and disadvantages of distraction. So advantages of a flow is a focused mind, whereas disadvantage of a distraction is a wandering mind. Flow makes you live in the present, whereas distraction makes you thinking about the past and the future. In flow, we are free from worry. In distraction, concerns about our daily life and the people around us invade our thoughts. When we are in a state of flow, the hours fly by. But whereas we are in distraction, every minute seems endless. When we are in the state of flow, we feel in control. But in distraction, we lose control and fail to complete the task at hand, or other tasks or people keep us from our work. When we are in a state of flow, we prepare thoroughly. But in distraction, we act without being prepared. In flow, we know what we should be doing at any given moment. But in a state of distraction, we frequently get stuck and don't know how to proceed. In a state of flow, our mind is clear and overcomes all obstacles to the flow of thought. But in distraction, we are plagued by doubts, concerns, and low self-esteem. In a state of flow, it's pleasant, but distraction, it's boring and exhausting. In a state of flow, our ego fades. We are not the ones controlling the activity or tasks we are doing. The task is leading us. But in a state of distraction, constant self-criticism and our ego is present and we feel frustrated.